Imagine for a moment all those times you felt overlooked, underestimated, or outright dismissed. The moments when the world seemed to conspire against you, making you feel small or insignificant. We've all been there, haven't we? Life has a way of throwing obstacles in our path, and people, whether intentionally or not, have a knack for testing our patience, doubting our abilities, and underestimating our potential. But here's the thing they don't know. There's a silent strength within you, a quiet power waiting to be unleashed. It's not the kind of power that needs loud words or dramatic gestures. No, it's the power of restraint, control, and unwavering self-belief. And trust me, when you learn to tap into that power, the same people who dismissed you will be left speechless. They'll wonder how you became so grounded, so unshakable, so untouchable. In this video, I'm going to share 10 quiet but incredibly effective actions that will transform the way you face these moments. These aren't just lessons, they're tools to disarm those who doubt you, protect your peace, and build a version of yourself that no one can ignore. Before we dive in, I need you to do something important. Go to the comments and type this phrase. Starting today, I am a new version of myself. I am Stoic. Why? Because declaring your transformation is the first step. It's a promise to yourself that you're ready to take charge of your life. Write it down now. Feel it. Commit to it. Because once you do, these actions will hold real power for you. Now, let's begin the journey to unlocking the quiet force that's been inside you all along. 1. Confidence that comes from within. Confidence. We all know what it looks like, but do we really understand what it feels like? Most people think confidence comes from external validation, compliments, recognition, applause. And while those things feel good, they're a trap. Why? Because when your self-worth depends on the approval of others, you hand over control of your emotions and your life. Let me tell you something I've learned. True confidence is built from the inside out, not the outside in. It doesn't matter how many people praise you if, deep down, you doubt yourself. And it doesn't matter how many people criticize you if you're rooted in self-belief. That's what Stoicism teaches us. Confidence is the result of knowing yourself, trusting yourself, and not needing anyone else to validate your worth. Here's a simple truth. When you rely on others to tell you who you are, you're like a leaf in the wind. Their opinions, moods, and judgments will blow you in any direction. One day you're up because someone complimented you. The next day, you're down because someone criticized you. It's exhausting. But when you anchor your confidence internally, you become immovable. You're no longer swayed by the ever-changing tides of other people's opinions. Let me give you an example. Think of a tree with deep roots. No matter how strong the storm is, it stands tall. That's the kind of confidence you need to cultivate. Unshakable, grounded, and independent. And you don't get that from external applause or validation. You get it by knowing your value and staying true to it, no matter what others say or think. The Stoics taught that our value is intrinsic. Marcus Aurelius said, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Think about that. How often do you let someone's fleeting comment define your worth? It's insanity when you break it down. No one else is living your life. No one else is walking in your shoes. So why should they have the power to dictate how you feel about yourself? I learned this lesson the hard way. There was a time when I craved approval. I wanted to be liked, respected, admired. I bent over backward trying to meet everyone's expectations, but all it did was leave me drained and directionless. I realized I was playing a losing game because no matter what I did, someone always found something to criticize. That's when it hit me. I needed to stop chasing validation and start defining my worth on my own terms. So how do you build confidence from within? Start by evaluating yourself honestly. Ask yourself, what am I proud of? What are my strengths? Where can I improve? This isn't about tearing yourself down or inflating your ego. It's about gaining clarity. Once you have that clarity, own it. Stand firm in your strengths and commit to working on your weaknesses, not for others, but for yourself. Next, stop giving power to other people's opinions. This doesn't mean you become closed off to feedback, but it does mean you filter it. Not every criticism deserves your attention. Not every compliment needs to be absorbed. Learn to recognize what's constructive and discard the rest. When you detach from the need for approval, you free yourself from its control. Finally, practice self-validation. Every time you accomplish something, no matter how small, acknowledge it. Every time you face a challenge and persevere, celebrate it. Don't wait for others to notice or applaud. Be your own biggest supporter. Over time, this habit will strengthen your inner confidence, making you less reliant on external validation. Remember, true confidence isn't loud or boastful. It's quiet, steady, and resilient. It doesn't demand attention because it doesn't need it. When you cultivate this kind of confidence, you become unstoppable. You stop seeking permission to be yourself and start living authentically. And let me tell you, there's nothing more powerful than a person who knows their worth and doesn't need anyone else to confirm it. 2. Teach the art of not reacting. Let me ask you something. How often do you regret the things you said or did in the heat of the moment? If you're like most people, the answer is probably more often than I'd like. Emotional reactions are a trap, and they're one of the quickest ways to lose control of yourself, of a situation, of your power. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. They taught that true strength lies in mastering your reactions. As Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Think about that for a second. Life throws all kinds of things at us: rudeness, criticism, betrayal. But none of those things can harm us unless we let them. The real damage comes from how we respond. Here's the thing. When you react impulsively, you give away your power. You let someone else dictate your emotions and control your behavior. It's like handing over the keys to your peace of mind and saying, "Here, take it." But when you pause, breathe, and choose your response carefully, you reclaim that power. You become the one in control, not the person or situation provoking you. Let me tell you about a time I failed at this. I was in a heated argument, and instead of staying calm, I lashed out. I said things I didn't mean, and as soon as the words left my mouth, I felt regret. I realized I had let my emotions control me, and in doing so, I had handed over my power. It was a hard lesson, but it taught me the value of restraint. So how do you master the art of not reacting? It starts with awareness. Pay attention to your triggers, the things that make your blood boil or push your buttons. Once you know what they are, you can prepare for them. When a trigger arises, don't react immediately. Pause. Count to 10 if you need to. This moment of stillness gives you the space to choose a response instead of defaulting to an emotional reaction. Another powerful tool is perspective. Ask yourself, will this matter in a week, a month, a year? Most of the time, the answer is no. Keeping the bigger picture in mind can help you stay calm and avoid overreacting to minor irritations. Finally, remember that not everything requires a response. Silence is often more powerful than words. When someone tries to provoke you, staying calm and composed can disarm them completely. It shows that you're in control of yourself, and that's a power few people possess. Mastering your reactions isn't about suppressing your emotions or pretending nothing bothers you. It's about choosing how to channel those emotions in a way that serves you, not harms you. It's about protecting your peace, maintaining your dignity, and staying aligned with your values. The next time someone tries to push your buttons, Don't give them the satisfaction of a reaction. Pause, breathe, and remind yourself, I'm in control. Because the truth is, when you master the art of not reacting, you master yourself, and there's no greater power than that. 3. The power of silence. In a world that constantly demands noise, social media updates, instant replies, endless chatter, silence has become a lost art. But here's the truth. Silence is power. It's the kind of power that unsettles your critics, baffles your enemies, and gives you control over situations that others can't handle. When I first realized the strength of silence, it was during a heated confrontation. My natural instinct was to defend myself, to argue, to prove I was right. But something stopped me. Instead, I just listened. I didn't react, didn't argue. And you know what happened? The person ran out of steam. Their anger bounced off me like waves crashing against a rock. They didn't know what to do with my silence, and that's when I understood. Sometimes saying nothing speaks louder than words. The Stoics were masters of this. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Silence is one way to exercise that power. When you stay silent, you control the narrative. You deny others the ability to manipulate you with their words, and you give yourself time to think clearly and respond wisely, if at all. Why is silence so effective? First, it disarms people. When someone expects an argument or a defensive reaction and you give them nothing, it throws them off balance. It shows you're not easily provoked, and that's a sign of true inner strength. Second, silence gives you the upper hand. When you stay quiet, you're observing, analyzing, and thinking strategically. You're not wasting energy on unnecessary words or letting emotions cloud your judgment. Instead, you're taking in information and deciding your next move from a place of control. Silence is also a form of dignity. It shows you don't need to engage in every fight or justify yourself to others. You're secure enough in your own value that you don't need to seek approval or validation through words. And let me tell you, that kind of confidence is magnetic. But silence isn't just about staying quiet during conflicts. It's also about creating space for self-reflection. In the quiet moments, we gain clarity about our thoughts, emotions, and goals. We can tune out the noise of the world and tune into what really matters. That's when we grow, when we become stronger, wiser, and more resilient. So how do you harness the power of silence? Start by practicing restraint. The next time you feel the urge to respond immediately, whether it's to an insult, a provocation, or even a compliment, pause. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself, does this really need a response? Most of the time it doesn't. Also, make time for intentional silence in your life. Take a walk without your phone, meditate, or simply sit quietly and reflect. These moments of stillness will help you center yourself and strengthen your inner resolve. Silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's not avoidance, it's strategy. And when you master it, you'll find that you don't need to shout to be heard. Your calm, composed presence will say everything that needs to be said. 4. Setting boundaries without apology. One of the hardest lessons I've had to learn is that not everyone deserves access to you. Time, energy, and attention are limited resources, and if you don't protect them, the world will drain you dry. This is where boundaries come in. For years, I was a people pleaser. I'd say yes to things I didn't want to do, tolerate disrespect, and let people overstep because I didn't want to come across as difficult. But you know what that got me? Burnout, resentment, and a realization I was letting other people dictate my life. The Stoics taught that we're responsible for our own well-being. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Part of mastering yourself is learning to set and enforce boundaries. It's not selfish, it's necessary. Boundaries are like a fence around your peace. They keep out what doesn't serve you and protect what does. They tell people, this is what I will accept, and this is what I won't. And when you enforce those boundaries, you teach others how to treat you. Let me give you an example. There was a colleague who constantly dumped their work on me. I kept taking it on, thinking I was being helpful, but inside I was seething. Finally, I realized I wasn't doing them, or myself, any favors. So the next time they tried, I politely but firmly said, I can't take this on. You'll need to handle it yourself. Was it uncomfortable? Sure. But you know what? They stopped taking advantage of me. Setting boundaries starts with clarity. You need to know what you're willing to accept and what crosses the line. Once you're clear, communicate your boundaries calmly and confidently. You don't need to explain or justify them. Your needs are valid, period. Enforcing boundaries is where most people struggle. It's easy to set them but hard to stick to them, especially when someone pushes back. But remember, every time you let someone cross a boundary, you're telling them it's okay to disrespect you. Stand firm. If someone can't respect your limits, they don't deserve a place in your life. And here's the thing, setting boundaries isn't just about keeping others in check. It's about taking control of your own life. When you stop saying yes to everything, you free up time and energy for the things that truly matter. You become more focused, more intentional, and ultimately more fulfilled. Don't apologize for your boundaries. They're not about being mean or selfish. They're about honoring yourself. And when you honor yourself, you create a life that reflects your values, not everyone else's expectations. Boundaries are a form of self-respect, and enforcing them is an act of courage. Yes, it might upset some people, but that's okay. The people who truly respect and care for you will understand. And for those who don't, well, they were never meant to stay in your life anyway. 5. The art of not reacting. If there's one skill that can completely transform the way you handle challenges, it's mastering the art of not reacting. Think about the last time someone provoked you. Maybe it was an insult, a rude comment, or a situation that felt unfair. What did you do? If you're like most people, you probably reacted quickly, fueled by anger or frustration. But what if you didn't? What if, instead of reacting, you paused, stayed calm, and chose your response carefully? Not reacting doesn't mean you're weak or indifferent. In fact, it's one of the most powerful things you can do. When you control your reactions, you control the situation. You show that your emotions are not at the mercy of others. This is a skill the Stoics valued deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Here's an example from my own life. I was once in a meeting where a colleague openly criticized my work. The old me would have jumped in to defend myself, likely escalating the tension. But instead, I took a deep breath, stayed silent, and let them finish. Then, I calmly addressed their points with facts, not emotion. The result? I came across as composed and confident, while they looked unprofessional and petty. Why is not reacting so effective? For one, it gives you time to think. Knee-jerk reactions are usually driven by emotion, not logic. By pausing, you can assess the situation objectively and choose the best course of action. Second, it disarms the other person. People expect a reaction. When they don't get it, they lose their power over you. But mastering this art takes practice. Start by recognizing your triggers, the things that usually provoke you. It might be a certain type of criticism, a tone of voice, or even traffic. Once you're aware of these triggers, you can prepare yourself. The next time one arises, take a deep breath and count to 5 before responding. This small pause can make a huge difference. Another technique is to remind yourself of what you can and can't control. You can't control what others say or do, but you can control how you respond. By focusing on your own actions and emotions, you take back your power. Not reacting doesn't mean you never respond. It means you respond on your terms. You decide whether the situation even deserves your energy. Most of the time it doesn't, and when it does, you respond thoughtfully, from a place of strength, not weakness. The art of not reacting isn't just about managing conflicts. It's about mastering yourself. It's about showing the world that you're unshakable, no matter what it throws at you. And once you master this, you'll find that people respect you more, situations become easier to handle, and your peace of mind remains intact. 6. Mastering emotional independence. Here's a hard truth. If your happiness depends on others, you'll always be vulnerable. Emotional independence, learning to validate yourself and find contentment from within, is the foundation of true strength. I learned this lesson the hard way. There was a time when I relied on others for validation. Compliments made me feel good. Criticism tore me down. My mood was like a roller coaster dictated by external forces. Then one day, I hit a breaking point. I realized I was giving away my power, letting others decide how I felt about myself. That's when I decided to change. Emotional independence doesn't mean you stop caring about others or become completely self-sufficient. It means you stop letting external opinions control your inner world. You take responsibility for your own emotions, your own happiness. The Stoics were clear on this. Epictetus taught, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." In other words, no one can make you feel anything unless you let them. The power lies with you. Developing emotional independence starts with self-awareness. Pay attention to how often your emotions are influenced by external factors. A rude comment, a friend canceling plans, even the number of likes on a social media post. Then ask yourself, why am I giving this so much power? Most of the time, you'll realize it doesn't deserve the weight you're giving it. Next, practice validating yourself. Instead of looking to others for approval, give it to yourself. Celebrate your own achievements, big or small. When you make a mistake, be compassionate with yourself, instead of waiting for someone else to reassure you. The more you do this, the more confident and self-reliant you'll become. Emotional independence also means setting boundaries. When you don't depend on others for your happiness, you're less likely to tolerate toxic behavior. You can walk away from situations and people that don't serve you because you're not clinging to them for validation. One of the most liberating parts of emotional independence is realizing that you don't need everyone to like you. No matter how hard you try, some people won't. And that's okay. As long as you're living in alignment with your values, the opinions of others are just noise. Achieving emotional independence isn't about shutting people out. It's about standing strong, even when they're not there. It's about finding peace within yourself, so you're not constantly seeking it elsewhere. And once you do that, you'll find that your relationships improve. You'll attract people who respect you and add value to your life, not those who drain you. When you master emotional independence, you stop being a passenger in your own life. You take the wheel, and from that moment on, nothing and no one can shake your foundation. You're free. 7. Master the art of observation. There's a saying, the quieter you become, the more you can hear. While most people rush to make their voices heard, few realize the immense power of simply observing. Observation isn't just about noticing what's in front of you. It's about truly understanding the dynamics of a situation, picking up on the things others overlook. This skill can give you a significant advantage in life. I remember attending a business meeting where everyone was vying for attention. The room was filled with loud voices, bold ideas, and people scrambling to impress the CEO. I chose to stay silent, focusing on the subtle details, body language, shifts in tone, and the unspoken reactions of the CEO. When it was finally my turn to speak, I addressed concerns that no one else had noticed. The CEO was impressed, and my input carried weight precisely because I had taken the time to observe. The Stoics valued observation deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Observe things as they are, not as you imagine them to be." Observation requires a clear mind, free from biases or assumptions. It allows you to see beyond the surface and make decisions based on reality, not just perception. This habit fosters clarity and helps you avoid unnecessary conflict or poor decisions. Observation begins with learning to pause. In moments of tension or chaos, take a step back instead of reacting impulsively. Pay attention not only to what people say, but also to how they say it, their tone, their body language, and their expressions. Sometimes a person's words and their actions contradict each other, and recognizing this can give you insights that others miss. Listening more than you speak is another cornerstone of effective observation. People often reveal more when you give them the space to talk, and you can learn a great deal just by staying quiet and paying attention. Approaching situations with curiosity rather than judgment is another important part of this skill. When you encounter something new or challenging, ask questions instead of rushing to conclusions. Why is this happening? What can I learn from this? Adopting this mindset helps you see situations more clearly and approach them with a problem-solving attitude. Ultimately, observation isn't about being passive. It's about being deliberate. It's the ability to gather information, analyze it, and act in a way that reflects true understanding. Mastering this habit can transform your interactions and decisions, making you someone who always seems to be a step ahead. 8. Cultivate emotional detachment. One of the most powerful skills you can develop is emotional detachment, the ability to maintain your peace regardless of external events. This doesn't mean becoming cold or indifferent. Instead, it's about not allowing other people or circumstances to dictate your emotional state. It's the realization that your inner peace is your responsibility, and no one can take it from you unless you let them. There was a time in my life when criticism would devastate me. Harsh words would replay in my mind, leaving me questioning my worth and my decisions. But as I embraced Stoic teachings, I learned to see things differently. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." That shift in perspective was a revelation. I realized that I was giving too much power to others, letting their opinions control how I felt about myself. Emotional detachment was the key to reclaiming that power. Detaching emotionally doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop overreacting. For example, if someone insults you, their words only hurt if you let them. By stepping back and seeing the insult for what it is, an external opinion that holds no real weight, you strip it of its power. Emotional detachment allows you to remain calm and composed, even in the face of negativity. This process starts with focusing on what you can control. You can't change what other people say or do, but you can control how you respond. Instead of letting anger or frustration take over, take a moment to breathe and assess the situation. Often, what seems like a personal attack is more about the other person than it is about you. Recognizing this can help you respond, or choose not to respond, from a place of strength. Reframing negative experiences is another part of emotional detachment. Instead of seeing challenges as threats, view them as opportunities to grow. Every setback is a chance to build resilience. When you detach emotionally, you can approach problems with a clearer mind, finding solutions instead of getting lost in frustration or self-pity. This kind of detachment doesn't happen overnight. It requires practice and self-awareness. It's about recognizing your triggers, understanding your emotions, and choosing not to let them control you. Over time, you'll find that you're no longer as easily shaken by life's ups and downs. You'll discover a sense of inner peace and strength that remains steady no matter what's happening around you. Emotional detachment isn't about withdrawing from life. It's about engaging with life from a position of power and clarity. When you cultivate this habit, you free yourself from the roller coaster of external validation and criticism. You become someone who is grounded, confident, and unshaken, a force to be reckoned with. 9. Embrace strategic silence. Silence is a tool more powerful than most people realize. In a world that values constant noise and instant responses, the ability to remain silent is a rare and invaluable skill. Silence disarms, confuses, and commands respect. It allows you to observe, reflect, and act with precision, instead of reacting impulsively. I remember a heated argument with a colleague early in my career. They accused me of something I didn't do, expecting me to lash out and defend myself. But instead of reacting, I stayed silent. I let their words hang in the air. The silence made them uncomfortable, forcing them to second-guess their accusations. By the time I calmly stated my case, their argument had unraveled. Silence gave me the upper hand. The Stoics understood the power of silence. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You always own the option of having no opinion. There is never a need to get worked up or to trouble your soul about things you can't control." Strategic silence is an extension of this principle. By choosing when to speak and when to stay silent, you protect your energy and maintain control over how you're perceived. When someone provokes you, your first instinct might be to defend yourself or retaliate, but often the best response is none at all. Silence allows you to stay composed, and your lack of reaction often speaks louder than words. It sends a message: you're in control of your emotions, and you won't let others dictate your actions. Silence is also a form of respect for yourself and for the situation. It gives you the space to process what's happening and consider your response carefully. This pause can prevent misunderstandings, de-escalate conflicts, and help you see the bigger picture. It's in this space of silence that you gain clarity and perspective. Strategic silence isn't just about avoiding conflict. It's also about creating impact. In conversations, a well-placed pause can emphasize your words and make people listen more attentively. In negotiations, silence can create tension, compelling the other person to reveal more than they intended. It's a subtle but powerful way to assert your presence. Learning to embrace silence takes practice. It requires you to resist the urge to fill every gap with words. But once you master it, silence becomes your ally, a tool you can wield to navigate life with calm and confidence. 10. Develop unshakable self-belief. The world is filled with opinions, criticisms, and doubts. If you rely on others for validation, you'll find yourself at the mercy of their ever-changing views. True strength comes from believing in yourself, regardless of what anyone else thinks. I used to struggle with this. Whenever someone doubted me, it shook my confidence. I felt the need to prove myself, to gain their approval. But no matter how hard I tried, their opinions would shift, leaving me in a constant state of insecurity. Then I came across a teaching from Epictetus. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. That hit me like a lightning bolt. I realized I didn't need their approval. I just needed to trust myself. Self-belief isn't about arrogance. It's about knowing your worth and staying grounded in your values. It's about understanding that your opinion of yourself matters more than anyone else's. When you cultivate self-belief, you become immune to external negativity. Criticism, rejection, and failure no longer define you because your sense of worth comes from within. Building unshakable self-belief starts with self-awareness. Take the time to understand your strengths and weaknesses. Acknowledge your accomplishments and learn from your mistakes. The more you understand yourself, the less you'll need others to validate your worth. Another key is setting your own standards. Stop measuring yourself against other people's expectations. Decide what success means to you and pursue it on your own terms. This gives you a sense of purpose and direction, freeing you from the trap of comparison. Self-belief also requires resilience. There will be times when you fail, when others doubt you, or when you doubt yourself. In these moments, remind yourself of your worth. Look back on the challenges you've overcome and the progress you've made. Each setback is an opportunity to strengthen your belief in yourself. One of the most liberating aspects of self-belief is that it makes you less reliant on others. You no longer need constant reassurance or approval. Instead, you can focus on living authentically and pursuing what truly matters to you. This independence is empowering, and it inspires respect from those around you. When you develop unshakable self-belief, you become unstoppable. You're no longer held back by fear of judgment or rejection. You have the confidence to take risks, make bold decisions, and stay true to yourself. And that kind of confidence is magnetic. It draws people to you and opens doors you never thought possible.